A white police officer arrogantly spits on a black man outside a busy cafe, mocking him in front of everyone. What he doesn't know is that this man isn't just anybody. He's the new police chief, here to clean up the department. And what happens next will not only shock the officer, but the entire city. It was a warm Monday morning in Brookside, a small city known for its tight-knit community, but lately tensions between residents and the police had been growing. At the center of it all was Officer Craig Hensley, a man whose uniform gave him a false sense of superiority. Craig was in his mid-40s, stocky, with a permanent scowl that seemed carved into his face. That morning, he parked his squad car in front of a bustling cafe. The street was alive with the aroma of fresh coffee and the hum of small talk. People stood in line, tapping on their phones, unaware of the storm about to unfold. Walking toward the cafe was a tall black man in a crisp navy suit. His polished shoes clicked on the pavement, and there was a quiet authority in his stride. He carried himself with calm confidence, but his eyes scanned his surroundings like a man who had seen the world's ugliness before. Craig noticed him. Something about the man's poise irritated him. He stepped forward, blocking the path. "Hey," Craig barked, his tone dripping with disdain. "Lost, buddy? This isn't your side of town." The man didn't flinch. "Just here for coffee," he said, his voice measured. Craig smirked, took a deliberate step closer, and, in a shocking display of disrespect, spat at the man's polished shoe. The liquid splattered on the leather, leaving a dark stain. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Did he just—" The man glanced at his shoe, then back at Craig, his face unreadable. "You might want to rethink your choices," the man said calmly. Craig laughed, dismissing him. "Rethink my choices? I'm the law here, pal." What Craig didn't realize was that the man standing before him had the power to end his career by the end of the day. And soon, the truth would hit him harder than he could imagine. The tall man didn't respond right away. Instead, he took out a handkerchief, knelt slightly, and began wiping his shoe. Every movement was slow, deliberate, almost like he wanted Craig to feel the weight of silence pressing in. By now, people had pulled out their phones, recording the interaction. A few shook their heads in disbelief. The man straightened, folded the handkerchief neatly, and looked Craig dead in the eyes. "I'm giving you a chance to walk away from this," he said. Craig scoffed. "You don't give me chances. I'm the officer. You're just some." Before he could finish, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The door opened, and out stepped a uniformed officer in a dark navy dress uniform, gold pins gleaming on his chest. He walked straight toward the tall man, saluting sharply. "Good morning, Chief Daniels," the officer said, his voice respectful and clear enough for everyone to hear. The crowd went silent. Craig's smirk faltered. "Chief what?" he muttered. "Yes, Chief Daniels," the officer repeated. "We're ready for your first day's briefing." Craig blinked, his brain scrambling to connect the dots. You're the new chief?" he stammered. Daniels tilted his head slightly. "And you're Officer Hensley. I read your file." Murmurs spread through the onlookers. Craig's face turned pale. He suddenly realized the videos being recorded would likely spread across town within the hour, and every second of his disrespect was now documented. Chief Daniels glanced toward the cafe. "Walk with me," he said, his voice calm but carrying a command Craig couldn't ignore. Craig followed, his pride deflating with each step. Inside the cafe, the scent of roasted beans filled the air, but the tension was thick enough to choke on. Daniels ordered 2 coffees, handed one to Craig, and sat at a corner table. "You've got a problem, Hensley," Daniels began, "and I'm not talking about your career. I'm talking about your mindset. That ends today." Craig swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar, fear mixed with shame. If you were in the new police chief's position, would you fire the officer on the spot or give him a chance to change? Tell us in the comments below. I'm reading every answer. Craig sat stiffly in the cafe chair, the coffee in his hand growing cold. He avoided eye contact, but Daniel's gaze never wavered. The new chief leaned forward, his voice low enough for privacy, but sharp enough to cut through Craig's defenses. I've seen officers like you before, Daniels said. Men who think the badge gives them the right to demean others. It doesn't. The badge is a responsibility, one you've been abusing. Craig tried to speak, but Daniels raised a hand. Save it. I watched the videos from your past incidents. The unnecessary stops, the verbal harassment, the complaints from citizens. And now, this. Daniels gestured toward Craig's coffee, as if the cup itself was evidence. Craig's shoulders tightened. You're going to listen. Daniels interrupted, his tone controlled but firm. Because I'm giving you one chance to prove you can be more than the man I saw outside. Craig frowned. And if I don't? Daniels didn't blink. Then you'll turn in your badge before sunset. The words hit like a gut punch. Craig had worn that badge for over 20 years. Losing it would mean losing not just his job, but the identity he'd built around it. Daniels leaned back, sipping his coffee. Tomorrow morning, you'll report to community service detail. No patrol car. No weapon. You'll spend 2 weeks working alongside the very people you've disrespected. You'll hear their stories. You'll see the damage arrogance does. Craig's mouth opened, but closed again. He'd expected yelling, maybe suspension. This felt worse. You can't fix the past, Hensley, Daniels continued, but you can change who you are moving forward. The question is, will you? Craig stared at the steam rising from his cup, the weight of every poor choice pressing down on him. Outside, the crowd had dispersed, but he knew the videos were probably already spreading online. His reputation was hanging by a thread. For the first time, Craig felt that the badge on his chest wasn't protecting him. It was challenging him to be better. The next morning, Craig arrived at the community center in plain clothes, no badge on display, no gun at his side. The absence of his uniform felt strange, almost like stepping into the world without armor. Waiting for him was Marlene, a middle-aged woman with warm eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor. "You're Hensley?" she asked, looking him up and down. "Yeah," Craig muttered. "You'll be helping stock the food pantry today," she said, handing him a clipboard. "Families will be coming in all morning. Be respectful. They've been through enough." Craig nodded stiffly, following her inside. Rows of shelves lined with canned goods, bread, and fresh produce filled the room. Volunteers bustled around, chatting and laughing. Craig felt out of place, until the first family walked in. A young mother held the hands of 2 small children. Her clothes were worn, and her eyes carried the exhaustion of someone fighting an uphill battle. As she picked out items, one of the kids smiled shyly at Craig. "Hi," the little boy said. "Hey, kid," Craig replied, almost surprised at his own softness. Over the next few hours, Craig stocked shelves, carried boxes, and helped elderly visitors load groceries into their cars. Slowly, he began noticing things. The way people thanked Marlene with genuine gratitude, the relief on a father's face when he found enough food for the week, the quiet dignity of those who were struggling but still standing tall. At lunch, Marlene handed him a sandwich. "You're not bad at this," she said with a small smile. Craig shrugged. "Guess I never paid attention before." She studied him for a moment. "People remember how you treat them, officer. Sometimes that memory lasts forever." The words hit deeper than he expected. He thought back to yesterday, to Daniel's calm voice and steady gaze, to the shame he'd felt. Maybe, Craig thought, this wasn't just punishment. Maybe it was the beginning of something he hadn't realized he needed: change. 2 weeks later, Craig stood outside the police station, wearing his uniform again. But something was different. His posture wasn't as rigid, his face not as hard. He had spent 14 days working alongside people he'd never bothered to see as individuals before, and it had changed him. Inside the station, Chief Daniels was reviewing reports when Craig knocked on the open door. "Come in," Daniels said without looking up. Craig stepped forward. "Community services done, sir." Daniels glanced at him, measuring his tone and expression. And Craig took a breath. "And I was wrong about a lot of things. I thought respect came with the badge. Turns out it has to be earned every single day." Daniels leaned back in his chair. "What made you realize that?" Craig hesitated, then said, "A kid at the food pantry. He offered me half his cookie because he thought I looked tired. Didn't care. I was a cop. Didn't care about my past. Just saw a person." Daniels nodded slowly. "That's the kind of lesson no academy can teach." Craig met his eyes. "I want to be better. Not just for the job, for the people." The chief studied him for a moment longer, then said, "Good, because I'm assigning you to community outreach permanently. You'll still wear the badge, but your beat will be the neighborhoods you once avoided. Think you can handle that?" A faint smile tugged at Craig's lips. "Yes, sir." Daniel stood, extending his hand. "Then let's get to work." As Craig shook the chief's hand, he realized this wasn't just a second chance at his career, it was a second chance at himself. And for the first time in years, he felt like he was wearing the badge for the right reason. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the Rise Against Odds and hit that bell icon, so you never miss stories that will leave you speechless.